The table component is one of the most powerful and flexible components in Ignition. Let's take a look at some of its features. The table component can be found under the Tables tab of the component palette. There's actually two of them, Table and Power Table. Let's take a look at the Table one first. The most important property of this component is the data property. It's a data set that contains multiple rows and multiple columns of data. We typically bind this to SQL query or to a function binding to bring back some data. I'm going to bind mine to an SQL query to bring back some information from my database. As you can see here, I have a bunch of data that we can work with. Now really all the features I'm going to show you here is about how we can customize this table to make it look a certain way to an operator. First and foremost, there's a bunch of appearance properties here to change the font of what's inside the table, change the background color and the foreground color of the table, the header font, maybe you want to show the header or not. There's a little property for making that visible. The row height and the background mode here. So row height first, we can set that to however many pixels we want that each row to be. So if I set it to 25, you'll see that the rows are bigger here, make it a little bit easier for the operator to see each of the individual rows. As far as the background color and the foreground color, we have them up here. The foreground color is what you see the text as. I can set it to red. You can see everything's red now, of course. The background color is white right now all the way through. If I set it to yellow, you can see everything is yellow. Now we can actually alternate that background color by setting the background mode here instead of constant to alternating, where we can alternate between white and something else, like maybe a light yellow or something. We can also map the background color to a value inside the data set. So for example, maybe I want to map it to column 5 here, which is a number. It has to be integer mapping, so that if it's 0, it's red, if it's 1, it's green, 2, and maybe it's yellow or something. So I can actually right-click, go to the customizers, table customizer. On the second tab, I can do background color mapping, map it on call 5. If the value is 0, I would make it red. If it's 1, I can make it green. And lastly, if it's 2, I can make it yellow. When I press OK, I can see all the colors here for each of the appropriate rows. So we can pick and choose how we want the table to look on the surface here. And then even below this, we can actually change how we want the columns in each cell to look to the user. So we can right-click and go to the table customizer. On the first tab, there's a lot of column configuration that we can do for every column that exists inside the data set. So you can see I have ID call 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then down the left-hand side, we have all the different properties we can specify for each one of those columns. So for example, I can actually hide a column. Like the ID column, maybe I don't want that. I can hide that column so the user doesn't see it. I can also change the header at the very top to something that's a little bit more human readable. Right now it came back as call 1 and call 2. Maybe I want that to be here value and name. And I can do that for the rest of them here as well. So you can actually change the header up there. You can mark columns editable so they can actually go in and edit the value, double click to change a value. You can mark which columns are sortable. You can do alignment, so maybe I want the value here to be centered and I want column 3 to be centered. We can add prefixes and suffixes. Maybe I want to add a suffix to the column 1 and put a % sign at the end of that. As you can see, I can do that. If it's a number, I can actually format that number any way I want. Maybe a call 3 here, I want to have 2 decimal places all the time, so I put a .00. If it's a date, I can format as a date. I can turn things into booleans. I can also turn things into progress bars. So maybe I want column 1 here to be a progress bar where the value goes from 0 to 100. And I can make that maybe a green color and have the background there be white. We can do quite a bit in this configuration. When I press OK, you can see what we've gotten so far. There's some columns are hidden. We've maybe centered some of the columns. We made things progress bars. We can actually show checkboxes in there. Very easy to work with that customizer. There's a couple more things we can actually do at the bottom, which allow us to actually translate a number into a string and into an image, into maybe changing the background color, the foreground color, whatever we want here. Let's look at changing a number into a string. So let's say on this for column 5, which is a number 0, 1, 2, I want to do a translation list. So I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to click on the translation list, add one for that column 5, and do 3 things. If it's 0, 1, and 2, 0 I want it to stay off, 2 I want it to be on, and 3 I want it to be maybe manual or something. So as soon as I do that and press OK, now you can see this column here is now translated to a string. I could also translate that to an image if I want to by doing an image path list, specifying image that we have in Ignition. It's also possible to change the background, foreground, and font of each particular column or cell. And so let's say I want to change the foreground color and the background color of the name column based on column 5. So we can actually do that here. I can go and set on column 2, which is the name. I can do a background color list, and the column that I want to do it off of is call 5. So I'm going to type in call 5 here, and then do a background color list where, again, I do 3 options. 0, 1, and 2. If it's 0, it's red, 1, I'll make it green, and 2, I'll make it yellow. So go ahead and press OK. As you can see now, this particular cell, the background color is changing based on call 5. There's quite a bit that we can do inside of this table using that customizer.